Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Lineage Break, a Grand Archive TCG podcast. My name is Cam. I host the show with Steven. His name is Steven. Hello, Steven.
Hello, Cameron.
How are you?
I'm doing all right on this Friday.
I'm doing well. And you want to know why I'm doing well, Steven?
Because we got news?
Because I'm not a fucking Fractals player, you know? That's why I'm doing well.
Woo! Shots fired.
Woo, woo, woo.
He's coming at you guys real hard this morning, apparently.
Yeah, we're having a day. There's a big ban list today to talk about. We have a couple of tidbits from the internet. We made it 15 seconds into the episode without the F-bomb, so that's good. I feel like I'm unleashed to be more unhinged on our own show because usually my time for GA is in a more professional capacity, and so I like the ability to ruin our monetization in the first 15 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we do this.
We exercise this.
We don't do this for the money.
It's true.
Or the fame. We do it
We are rich and famous though.
For you guys. We do this for you guys, and we do it for us.
We do it for
fun.
Amen, dude.
You know,
we don't do it for the Fractals players.
Yeah. We don't do it or the Merlin players.
So today we have a ban list to talk about.
Yep.
We will go over all of the things that changed. You can get a lukewarm opinion from Steve and I, and then we will go on to talking about some tidbits of various varieties, some news about worlds, which is pretty cool. It's a good day. Good day to be newsy news, and especially, man, Steven.
Whew.
You know what's crazy?
Lots of things.
Yeah, that's so true. So true, bestie. But you know what is specifically crazy that I was going to mention to you right now?
I don't, because I'm not in your head.
Right, that's true. You should be. 3 weeks from today.
Yeah.
We'll be in Anaheim, California for Grand Archive Worlds.
I hear...
That's pretty crazy.
I hear we're doing it live on the floor.
That is true. That is my hope, is to do it day zero.
Yeah.
I think.
Because it's Friday?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, as long as scheduling works out, that is the plan to do the show. It won't be live, but it'll be live, if that makes sense. Right. So if you guys
are recording the episode, and then we'll post it that night.
Right. So if you guys are fans of the show, or friends of the show, as we like to say, we will have a open mic. That is my plan, for people to come up and, make short guest appearances if you would like while we do the podcast from Worlds in a couple of weeks. Yeah, we'll post it. Well, it depends. If you guys want to see the episode, you have to make sure we're going to need some security to keep Theo from being on the show, because as soon as he says any words on the program, we can no longer post it. So. Correct. So you guys make sure to watch out for him.
Someone just tackle him if he comes too close to us.
I want it to be like how they treat people that run onto the field at the football game or something, you know, where they get tackled by several people from security.
Right.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Right. Yeah. So please bring your A game. But speaking of bringing your A game, you won't be bringing Dissonant Fractal to the World Championship. Oh. A pretty huge ban list update.
First time ever, I believe.
Yeah, first time ever. And I would like to give a quick read of why they made this change, and then we can talk about it. It is lots of text. So we have seen many top players preferring water fractal-based decks for their ability to quickly and consistently create advantageous game states, largely in part to cards like Dissonant Fractal. As a result, deck diversity has fallen lower than we would have liked, and many other potential strategies are being pushed out of the metagame in favor of these decks. As the card pool increases, we believe strategies like this that rely heavily on one particular card type will be much better kept in check. At this current moment, however, Dissonant Fractal has proved to be an essential tool that pushes the height of decks that use it to the extreme, to a degree that other decks can't quite match. Much like other category shifts, we will continue to monitor the health of Fantasia decks both now and in the future as Distorted Reflection releases. Additionally, we would like to provide some clarity about the direct addition of Dissonant Fractal to Category 3 without previously being on the watch list. Our philosophy regarding the watch list is that it is a tool that we use to notify players which cards identify as problematic either to the current health of the game or eliminating in a way that inhibits future set design. We would like to be able to use this list to help players infer our plans regarding balance changes and ban decisions. However, it should be noted that in the case of cards proving to be too powerful or meta warping, we are not against taking action and moving cards directly to Category 3. As a result, Dissonant Fractal is banned effective immediately. Dude, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
As they said, it's the first time ever that a card has been moved from no category to Category 3. We even talked about it on the show last week, how we're like, oh, maybe they'll move up Lost in Thoughts, but like they probably won't ban anything because we don't have anything on the watch list, et cetera, because that's always how we think about it. But they've made a pretty huge leap here and have banned Dissonant Fractal, and especially before the biggest tournament of the year is a pretty big deal. There's some other category changes, but I don't think nearly as important. How do you feel, Steven?
As someone who has both played this deck and is tired of playing against this deck, I think this ban was worthy. I think the consistency of Fractals has been at a point where unless you are teched very heavily against it, you just lose to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this, I don't know if it kills the deck, but I think it for sure makes it less consistent enough where other decks can start to reemerge in the meta.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. I do think it is good. We talked about this last week, that I don't know that the deck is like too good. It doesn't feel quite like the Icebound Slam decks or like pre-errata Slime Sylvie or anything like that. It is very powerful though, and I think that they feel the same way that I do, that it does hurt deck diversity, and that's what we said last week, that we don't want the World Championship, which is supposed to be this like big show for Grand Archive, both for established players and new players that like just want to like, oh, let's see, what this game is like. The World Championships this weekend, and then you see, the same deck 8 rounds in a row, and if you're a new player, why do you want to play that game, right?
Right.
So I think it's good for diversity. The only thing that is like a little bit worrisome is the speed, and I know that they said that this is sort of a not a regular occurrence, something that they only want to do when they feel like it's really important for them to do a ban as quickly as this, where usually they do want to sort of infer their plans. And I think you can make the argument that there were some inferences made for Fractals receiving some sort of nerf in Lost in Thought and Crystalline Mirror, both being put on the list in the past couple of ban lists. Means like, hey, we're looking at this Fractals deck. Hey, these are cards that are in that Fractals deck that we think are problematic. And I think that, I don't think anyone was particularly shocked that a card got hit out of Fractals, just maybe shocked that it was one that we weren't expecting it to be.
With that being said, how do you think this changes the meta? Like, do you think that, what decks do you think are going to either reappear or become more dominant because of this this hit to the Fractal deck?
I do think it's an interesting one in I think the reason why the Fractals deck does so well, and the reason why it's so attractive, and we talked about this last week. If you guys didn't watch last week's episode, you can catch it today, 2 p.m. Monday. Nope, today's Friday. Today, Friday, 2 p.m. The reason why this deck is so attractive is that it has a really high floor, but it also has a really high ceiling. So you'll see that a lot of the best players in the game, Nationals, no excuse, the 5 of the best players in the game playing Fractals, because it does have such a high skill ceiling as well as a floor, right? So you get to like sort of sweep a couple of rounds in Swiss for free because the deck does some broken stuff, and you can just sort of steal games out of nowhere. But it does still have that skill ceiling where if you are a good player, you can leverage that skill ceiling and sort of outplay your opponents in those longer games where you don't get that like high roll blowout finish.
Right.
So I think what happens now is that Fractals, I think, basically no longer has those high rolls, right? We always talk about like the 3 fractal start on turn 1 or the 4 fractal start on turn 1 if you're, God's chosen. Both of those become way less likely with the elimination of not just Dissonant Fractal, like having Glimpse for it, like obviously that's the broken part, but it being 1 cost and really like fitting into that curve to be able to put 3 fractals on the board on turn 1 becomes way harder because there's only, 3 2 costs, one of which comes in rested. So it's like way harder. You have to draw exactly 3 2 costs, but 2 of them can't be unstables, right? Like none of the numbers work if you have a 3 cost, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it really does push the high roll games for fractals to like a statistical anomaly, which means I think that the good players probably won't play it anymore. Because I think if you want to play a deck that you can leverage your like high skill as a Grand Archive player and you want to play a blue deck, now you should just play Genbu. Because I think it has that same skill expression, and we saw that obviously with Joe Faccia taking down North American Nationals. I think it does have that same skill expression that a deck like Fractals has, but the thing that Fractals had over Genbu is that explosive floor, and when you remove that explosive floor, I think that Genbu is just a better deck.
Yeah. I'm very I had a very similar like thought process to that, where like we were already seeing Genbu decks on the rise, and now that this Fractals deck doesn't have, like you were saying, the explosive floor that it had, that the Genbu deck seems to be the best choice to be in water.
I agree. And this is good for a couple of other strategies that were particularly weak into Fractals. Of course, I'm an RE player. That matchup sucks. So like it's good for RE. I think you'll probably see some more RE now that Fractals is toned back. The like Genbu matchup is, I think, totally fine.
Yep.
Helps some of the other control decks a little bit too, like the Luxem decks. We saw this advent of like the mid-range wind Luxem deck, and the reason why is because of the Fractals matchup, where like I think Luxem in general is pretty well positioned into this meta, but without having to prepare so much for Fractals, you can move more towards those traditional Luxem decks that have a better matchup into the slower control decks, stuff like Genbu, stuff like RE. But I also think that it will have a sort of reverse effect where there was a lot of like Philo decks running around at North American Nationals, and those were basically to prey on Fractals and using the power of Clarent to prey on Fractals. We saw a couple of absolute legends like Jimmy Lee playing like Fire Crux to prey on Fractals, and all of those things are much worse into a meta where Fractals isn't the predominant deck, where like you don't really want to play your Philo deck into Genbu. That's like kind of a nightmare, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think things will shift if the players want to shift them. I don't think that Fractals is a bad deck. And I think anyone who is not, those 32 best players in the world that is playing in 3v3 at Ascent Worlds, I think you should probably still bring Fractals, and I think you should probably still expect Fractals to be there. Fractals is still a pretty powerful deck when only 1/3 of your opponents are going to have access to Safeguard Amulet, right? But I think in like an open, regular constructed format, probably not the move anymore, which is good. It's at its time. I agree with you. I'm good on seeing Zhang Zhao number 4.
Right. I've played in a couple events over the last like 2 weeks, and every time I play against a Fractals player, I'll just like give it to them because I just don't. Like after the second Zhang Zhao, I'm just like, sure, dude. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, not saying it's anything bad against the players. It's just like I've played against the Fractals deck for so long in this meta where I'm just like, I just don't want to see it anymore.
Yeah, it is one of those like gatekeeper decks, right? And we saw that sort of similarly with like the Icebound Slam decks last format. Obviously the Icebound decks were much more egregious, I think. I don't think that anyone's going to argue that. Those, like, was a high chance that you stole the game. Yeah, I think the Fractals, like, high roll you, kill you on, like, turn 2 or 3 is pretty uncommon. But it doesn't mean that Gatekeeper decks in general are good. And so I think this deck being tuned down a little bit will help those Gatekeeper decks. I think the most, or help it not be one of those Gatekeeper decks. I think one of the things that I like the most about this ban list change is The reasoning that they gave us, I think, aligns with like what I want a lot, which is good. Not only in like encouraging deck diversity, but they say something that we've said a bunch of times on the show, which I'm so glad that the people that make the game are on the same page.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't, it wouldn't happen. Is that these sort of singular strategies aren't particularly a problem. You think about, like Affinity, if you're a Magic player, right? Like these archetypes that are completely based around one card type.
Mm-hmm.
And those archetypes usually aren't super powerful. In that if they become too good, people will just sideboard like really potent hate pieces for you. Right now, because the card pool is so small for Grand Archive, there are no really potent hate pieces. So as the game develops and we get more potent ways to deal with fractals, like think about Annihilation, the Exia card that none of you have ever read. If Annihilation was available to a more like meta-defining deck, fractals would be unplayable. Right, it's such a huge blowout when you play a card like that.
Yeah.
There are just very few cards like that in Grand Archive. So I think as the game gets older and we get more support to sort of take care of these singular strategies, you can have them be more powerful because they just require you to have these potent sideboard cards. We just don't have those yet.
Yeah.
So.
And as someone who has cast Annihilation against a Fractal player,
It's crazy.
Feels great.
Yeah, it's like a 4-for-1. They just lose the game on the spot, basically.
Like,
season's end.
I'll
do
cast
the
this
same thing.
for 2.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't even have to worry about your Dissonant fractals anymore. Now, basically, all of their fractals are 2 costs.
Yeah.
Before we jump away from the ban list, there are 2 other changes that are worth talking about that I think are a little bit less important, but of course it is a ban list, so we should talk about them. Lost in Thought has been moved to Category 2. That card's broken. I would be surprised if we saw it stick around for much longer. The problem with sort of like format defining cards like this is sort of my same argument with Grave Shock, is that if you remove Lost in Thought, Water becomes probably holistically unplayable, especially after the Scepter of Lumina nerf and now the Fractals ban. Like, what the hell are you doing with your Water deck if we lose Lost in Thought?
Yeah.
So we'll see. That card is obviously very powerful, but I do think it is sort of a pillar of the color right now, and so I think losing it would feel pretty bad. Obviously, if Worlds is 32 Genbu players, something will have to be done regardless, but I would hope to see Lost in Thought stick around for a little bit longer until we can get some more tools for the Water decks. And then Mercenaries Blade added to Category 1, which I think is really interesting. How do you feel about that, Steven? Mercenaries Blade?
Mercenaries Blade? I was confused by the choice.
Yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I do get it. I understand that card's powerful, and I think like Category 1's like pretty innocuous.
Right.
You can like, Tactful Sergeant is always the example that I go to, right? The Tactful Sergeant was on Category 1.
Right.
But Mercenaries Blade's a weird one. I don't think it's like performing very well right now. And traditionally hasn't really performed well at all. Like, I understand that card is very powerful,
right.
but
I don't understand why it was moved now.
Right.
But I can see for future design why they would want to put this on the watch list.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, access to too many free Blazing Throws or whatever is good. Like, access to free power for Slice and Dice is good.
Right. And I think that was like a big thing, right? Because like I played in a store championship last weekend, and I played against Visa, and they did not have the damage to kill me.
Right.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, I got a prep counter."
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can get this blade.
And then they Blazing Throwed me for death. So I understand kind of, but like it definitely felt out of place compared to the rest of the stuff on the list.
Yeah, you think this is an Erupting Rhapsody situation?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I think that's what I think too. That it's like, especially after this Dissonant ban, where they're like, we really want it to be clear when we're thinking about something that needs to be banned.
Yeah.
I think maybe Mercenaries Blade is a bit of a, all right, just in case, because maybe something is coming that, helps. Like, think about a world, obviously not this exact world, but it's good as a sort of thought experiment, where they print a second copy, like a functional second copy of Blazing Throw, right? And that does make this card, like, kind of insane. It has, I think that is obviously its best pairing is playing it with Blazing Throw, but it's only 4 copies in your deck, doesn't come up all the time. But, like, if you have more effects like that, I do think it becomes maybe problematic.
Yeah, anything that you can get for free.
Right. So Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, any sort of out of sequence activations out of your material deck are very strong, and they are very watchful of those, and this is obviously one of them.
And I think if there's there's a card that just came out in MRC Alter that counters exactly that.
True. Yeah.
Out of sequence activations.
Royal refusal or something. Yeah.
And I would love to see cards that have that like niche, like slot in your deck to actually be useful.
Yeah.
And if you ban all the good ones,
sure.
Like
Silver Bullet sideboard cards are fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like probably not great against Mercenary's Blade. That feels awful,
Right.
If I'm the opponent and I have to cast a Royal whatever it's called on my opponent's Mercenary's Blade, I feel like I'm losing that game,
Well, or you win that game because they only have a Blazing Throw, and they need to kill you with it.
True.
And you're like, well, now you don't have a dagger.
That is true enough, but yeah, interesting for sure. Chat says it's to prepare for the Crux Assassin and PTM.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, obviously, the Astra Assassin. We just got the Astra Assassin card, right?
Yeah, but they aren't opposed to doing two of the same element, right?
Because
we got Kong Ming and Dao Chen.
Yeah, true.
Volterra. So
could be cool.
When Arisana comes back, picking up a dagger.
God, that's... Ugh. Please don't. Make me play Assassin. Ew. Gross.
Yeah, no.
Speaking of Astra cards, Steven.
Oh.
The reason that we said we had an exciting tidbit to talk about is Mr. Grey Wolf Silidar himself put out I think like pretty big news just like randomly on his Twitter account.
Yeah.
Usually these are like little, sneak peeks into stuff, and they're like really cryptic and silly, and this one is just like, here's a bunch of information that's like really important.
Yeah, this is not really a tidbit for DTR.
It's just news.
It's just news.
Yeah.
So the other day, Mr. Grey Wolf himself put out DTR tidbit number 14. Yeah. And that says, design notes will be on the morning of June 27th during the opening ceremony of Worlds 2025. Hey,
It's true.
We predicted that.
I think that's a very astute prediction.
Afterwards, DTR starter deck events will be held as one of the Ascent Day 0 events.
That's so cool.
That's super cool.
It's like what they did last Worlds with the Recollection decks. It's super cool.
Yeah, I was not expecting to see them.
Yeah, me neither. It's like really early. I guess it's like a month ahead of time, but like it's earlier than it was last time. Right.
It's gonna be so cool too. Like I'm gonna be so happy to have my CL deck a month early.
Yeah, dude. Have your CL CSRs a month early.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll talk at Worlds.
Beat somebody to death in the parking lot for their CL that they opened in the starter deck event.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll just open it.
Yeah,
and
true.
I don't have to worry about it.
True. Yeah, it's super cool.
They don't have CSRs in them, right, anymore?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, probably the champions.
Yeah,
I don't think we know for sure.
I might have to talk to our sugar daddy if someone pulls a CSR.
The prices are gonna be insane.
Yeah,
bro.
surely.
Wow, look at that. Lock that in. Perfy says he'll sell for $1. Lock that in. Somebody clip that.
Yeah. Producer son, get me a clip of that.
But yeah, this is pretty huge news. Something that I was, I don't want to say worried. Worried is like probably the wrong word, but with Worlds being so close to DTR, we do a podcast. I don't know if you guys have heard. It's called the Lineage release. With Worlds being so close to DTR, I was a little bit concerned that the bulk of our like Worlds presentation-y time would be for the DTR design notes, because we like sort of have to see them at Worlds. But the way that they're doing it, since they're doing the DTR design notes and the opening ceremony, it means that they won't be doing them at the closing ceremony. So hopefully, I think like the coolest thing about Worlds is that we get all those like really exciting announcements, the ones that they save all year for Worlds, and we will still get all those exciting announcements in the closing ceremony, because DTR design notes will be at the beginning of the weekend. So I think that's super sweet.
So my thought process is that we're going to start seeing some PTM stuff maybe at the end of the weekend.
Yeah, maybe. Obviously not cards, but
No. Obviously not cards. Maybe like an art or two and like the name.
yeah, that's exactly what we got last year. So I don't think that's insane. That last year was the week before MRC launch. Mm-hmm. So MRC hadn't even come out yet, but we got the announcement of Mortal Ambition and the art we got the art for that HVN card and
that panda.
Yeah, and also those other things. I assume we're getting a roadmap for the next year of competitive play, and then hopefully some surprise announcements and stuff, which we can look forward to. But
hopefully we learn about because we're coming up quick on Revelfest, right?
Yeah,
that should be soon.
Yeah, it should be.
The week after Worlds?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 2 weeks after Worlds. Around
in line
there.
with the DTR release.
Yeah, I believe DTR is exactly a month after Worlds. It's the 4th weekend of July. So yeah, it should be cool. But yeah, definitely a reason for you guys to tune in to the day 0 of Worlds. It'd be awesome. Watch those design notes and make sure you watch the whole stream. So I assume they'll be doing exciting stuff all day. And that is exciting news. Yeah. See what all those new champs do.
I'm so excited.
Steve will be vibrating in his chair.
I've been vibrating since this post.
Yeah.
Like, if you think that I'm picking Diana, like, you don't know me.
Obviously, I'll pick Diana. Play those new Aster cards.
You throw the Diana lineage out and put the Aries in.
It's like, I don't need this. Just want to see what the new Aster cards are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I wonder how they'll do it. It seems like he used the word events, plural, right?
Well, he says activities.
Activities?
He says starter deck events.
Events will be part of that.
Will be held as day 1 as day 0 activities.
Yeah, so that makes me think that it's a little bit less like the MRC like world premiere, where it's like one giant 200-person event, and maybe they will just like be running events all day, sort of like how they did for like Mortal Ambition drafts at the other ascents.
Right, that way you like, it's like maybe an 8-man pod, but like they're just constantly running them.
It's like when you get time, right? People will be doing all sorts of stuff, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of other activities. So maybe you don't have all that time to commit to the starter deck event like right now.
Yeah,
you're saving all your money for casino night.
Well, I can tell you this.
Casino night!
I can tell you this.
What?
The moment I'm allowed to get my hands on one of these starter decks, I will be in that first event.
Should be cool.
It would be cool if we could get like a pod of just content creators to do starter deck stuff.
See who we can source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
So yeah, that is very exciting. And we can't wait. It's sort of it hasn't felt real, I suppose. I've had a pretty big I've had a pretty busy couple of weeks, especially coming off of nationals. Mm-hmm. And so I hadn't like really been thinking about Worlds as a like tangible thing until the last couple of days. So
yeah,
now we're excited.
Yeah,
it's coming in a few weeks.
Unfortunately, I was looking at flights last night, and we missed all the direct ones.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Now they have layovers, but they're still the Southwest ones are still pretty cheap. So
cheap. Steven.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you want to talk about? You're getting too distracted by chat.
I don't think so.
There's no other tidbits that you were really excited to talk about that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't say I'm really excited, but I
wow, not really excited.
I'm moderately excited.
All right. Medium excited. Over the last
week, we have been getting other developers doing tidbits, and I think that's super cool. Belle did a lore tidbit.
I love lore.
It wasn't 100% about Grand Archive.
Sure.
But she dropped a lore tidbit for the Queen of Hearts in the original Through the Looking Glass series, saying that the Queen of Hearts and the Red Queen are different characters, which we can, pull parallels to maybe.
Well, yeah, I would like to raise you, Stephen. Mm-hmm. I think it is about Grand Archive. Oh. Because otherwise, why would Belle tell us that? Why does that matter? Who cares?
Good point.
If it's not, about Grand Archive, so maybe it is.
Yeah, maybe.
Pretty cool. We like lore. When's that lore coming out? Soon?
Yeah, lore when? Lore at Worlds maybe?
How about before Worlds? How about right now?
We got what, a week, right? Next week and then Worlds?
No, it's 3 weeks from
3
today.
weeks?
Yeah. So this week, next week.
Yeah,
next week, the week after.
Yeah,
Worlds.
we got 2 weeks of
2 weeks of slop.
Begging Scylla to post on Twitter right now.
And we also got some. We love tidbit season. We're big tidbit. If you like tweet whatever you want and you put the word tidbit in front of it, we'll be like, oh man, that's so cool. Yeah. Even if it's just like, I had breakfast today. This is what I ate. Tidbit.
I'll retweet it.
But our glorious production leader Shinja has been tweeting some stuff as well, which is like, a little bit more unhinged.
Yeah, his are more general, the meta. It's like I we run 8 cameras and it's just me.
You guys can be pleased that one of those tidbits is about a sleeve policy coming soon.
Yeah.
So for all of you fucking complainers out there will be a sleeve policy in place. But if we haven't summoned the Grey Wolf, which it seems like we haven't, I think that is about all that we have to talk about. But
that's true.
Busy week. I'm very excited to see what the meta shapes up like. It's weird, right? Because we won't really have a whole lot of events.
There's like none really,
right?
Like, except for like maybe some like SCA regionals or
maybe
nationals. Because like I thought we were done with regionals, and then there was a couple SCA regionals over the last 2 weeks.
There's just like there's so many events, right?
Yeah.
But the only major event that we have is Worlds with this format, which is really interesting. Where like major event, quote unquote, obviously it's a really big deal, but I don't think that we will see the effects of this ban in 3v3 because I think that format is very different, and so you won't see like the sort of ripple effect of this ban other than in the Gauntlet and in Worlds, which is really interesting because it's such a small player pool. So I'm curious to see what those results look like, because like Worlds last year was crazy, right? The deck of the room was Arcane Rye, who at the time and afterwards was not at all a meta deck, right? It was just like a disgusting inside call because a bunch of people were like playing Luxem and stuff. And it was a good call for sure. Shout out to Sean Zhang, got second place. But I'm curious if we will see a similar sort of like inbred metagame.
Like not something like a enclosed metagame. Yeah,
something that is not indicative, because like so many people choose their deck, right, for a large Swiss tournament, but with a much smaller pool of players, and B, a predictable pool of players where like, we have all of the true champion guys. I guess Terry and Isaac are in Gauntlet, right. But 3 of the other 3 true champion guys are just Worlds qualified, and like, let's assume that Terry and Isaac both get out of the Gauntlet. Of the 32 players playing in Worlds, 5 of them are on the same team. They're going to play the same deck. So if you can figure out what deck they're playing, that gives you like, an edge over 15% of the format, right? And that's true of a lot of other teams as well. Like there's plenty of people that are either officially collaborating or unofficially, or friends or whatever.
Like,
so
like Apex and
main deck. I'm really curious to see how the meta shakes out and if it is sort of indicative of what the global metagame would look like, but I sort of assume it won't be, and we'll maybe see some weird off the wall stuff.
I pray that someone brings Rye and just crushes again.
So
it would be so good. It would be so good. What an upset for everyone playing if they're just like, hey, we found this broken Rye list. Beat us.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
because like I don't think anyone actually puts the time into like looking at stuff that aren't just like these level 1 decks anymore.
Well, it's like I said, it sort of depends what you're preparing for, and that's why so many of these top players ended up on Fractals, because it has that ceiling that they want because they're a good player, but it has that floor, and that floor is really what you want for an open format,
right?
But that floor is not necessarily what you need for a closed format, right? Like if you're playing a deck that has the out to just like blow out lesser skilled players, right? Which is what Fractals does, just like blows out lesser skilled players when it draws well. If you're playing at Worlds, you're not going to have that opportunity because the players you're playing against are not going to be lesser skilled players, just by definition. So, like, all of the decks that these people are going to be playing are things that they think that they can leverage their skill over their opponent. And so I think it makes the metagame really interesting. But we'll see. No leaks. You know, we'll see what people are playing. And it'll be a good time, I hope. So.
I agree.
It's good stuff. Well, hey, thank you guys for watching. Thank you to the internet for giving us stuff to talk about. If you want to catch the show, you can catch it here on the Grand Archive place, youtube.com/Lineage Break. Every Friday, 12 p.m. asterisk. EST, I guess. 12 p.m. EST asterisk. If you want to catch the previous week's episode, you can get it Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, asterisk. This week is going up today because we were a little bit late. Sorry about that. You'll see that in an hour. But other than that, we will see you next week. As Steven said, we have 2 shows next week, the week after, and then we're at Worlds. Hopefully we'll have some spice to talk about next week, but if not, you guys will get your favorite episode of Lineage Break where we
talk about Shrek.
Nothing and talk about Shrek.
And
look forward to our Shrek podcast coming soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next week.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Woo. Woo woo.